Right guys, I am back and we are going to do more about WinOLS. So in the previous video we did lots about like the software, where it's from, all that kind of stuff. So now we're going to start using it a bit more and seeing what you've got. Because obviously everyone gets kind of scared of WinOLS because it's kind of like a software where you don't really get a lot. So if you're looking at a car ECU, so you've gone to your car, you've read it with B Flash, Magic, Flex, KS, anything like that, then you're going to end up with a file that you've read off that ECU. So you took a copy of the ECU, you've got that on your desktop. So you put it into WinOLS like this. Put that over there. So you put it onto WinOLS and you're looking for obviously matches and things like that. I'm going to ignore and I'm going to put it in as normal. So next, you got your checksums, which you don't need because we don't need those anymore because it's all through the checksums. We've got all the information from the ECU. We've done all this already, so I don't really have to kind of go through this too much. So I'm just going to add those little details in. And you're sat there now with a screen with absolutely no maps. You don't know what's kind of going on with it, and okay, that's kind of what you're left with. So you have a few options from here. You can either go and buy a tune. Obviously, you can use whoever. I've got a portal. There's other portals out there. You can go on olsx. You can do all that. olsx I showed in version 1. You can sit and learn about the software, which I kind of pushed everybody to do, kind of thing. So you can have a look here and start working out what all these maps are. I'm just going to make this a bit bigger. So everything in this screen here is your kind of like what you're going to work with. I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger in the X. So you can kind of zoom in to make the maps bigger, smaller, do what you like. So you can start flicking through and seeing what these maps mean and start getting a bit of an understanding about the ECU. Now, I always say, like, if you're coming into a new ECU on a development basis, then log the car. Log it, because you need to understand exactly what that car is doing. So what torque are you requesting, what boost are you requesting, what injection timing are you seeing, and all these things to try and make sense of the map itself. So you can start painting a picture of what's going on with the ECU. So the biggest problem for everybody is the ECU's got, say, 10,000 maps in plus, each doing its own little thing within the software. So it's not just like you've got, I want to raise the torque, where's the torque map? It's not, I want to change the boost, where's the boost map? Like, it doesn't kind of work like that. It does in a sense, but there's going to be other maps that affect that map. There's always a process between what you want to do with a car and how you've got to do that in the ECU to get it to work. So this is always my argument between generic and custom maps. Like, if generic map's been tested on the car and it works and the power's there and all that kind of stuff, you're better off with that than you are a custom tune. Because say if I was doing a custom tune on the car and I was chasing power on the dyno and I made some changes to the map that I wouldn't normally change, what's to say that that's not going to feel horrible out on the road compared to how it looked on the dyno and all these kind of things. So a lot of it comes down to experience, to know what map does what, and if I want to get to wherever I want to get to, how am I going to do it. So with WinOLS, you kind of dropped in the deep end a little bit. I mean, this is kind of like the basic view of an ECU. There's actually more going on in the background of actual computer programming. I don't know if people have done much computer programming, but say this map here it's a driver's wish map. I know that because just by how it looks. But that map would be linked to a bunch of other maps. So you might have torque, smoke, and all that kind of stuff. And also, if we open this map up, anything in the map will be linked to other maps, or it could be linked to map axes. So like you've got the axis up here. Like, that's not, like, nothing's done for us here. Like, I know 8192 is 100%, and I know that's a throttle. So you've got throttle up top, you've got RPM down the side. Now, obviously, RPM doesn't make sense, so there's obviously factors attached to that too. Because inside every kind of part of a map, there's factors behind the map to make sense of the map. So say this middle map here is, I know it's torque because it's an EDC, so I can say torque, or I can spell torque. And I know that's going to have a factor of 0.1 because now that makes sense. I've got 480 newton meters here and then 405 and such and such. So this is the properties of the maps. So every single map that you're going to need is going to need properties put into it, behind it, to make sense of it. Now, there is easier ways of doing this. Recently, StageX, made by Magic Motorsport, have brought out a kind of like a Lua script. So the Lua script is the scripting that WinOLS is made from. So when you're doing checksums and things like that, that's all made from Lua scripts. So that's how it's kind of built. It'll work off Lua scripts. So they've made a Lua script where you can just go purchase a map pack for this ECU, and it will give you all the relevant maps that you need. So it'll break it down for you. So you've got, what's torque, what's driver's wish, what's all that kind of stuff. And when you're learning, this is kind of like a big step up, because obviously that's new. Like, we didn't really have that. So what we would have actually have done is gone away and find the actual like A2Ls and things like that put everything into maps, and we would have to go through that, figure out what's what, like make changes, log the ECU to see what those changes did, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to delete that map because I don't want it open. And you'd have to go through it. So when you're going through these maps, if you're fresh at this, this is just going to look like a bunch of lines to you. Like, I remember when I first looked at WinOLS, I was just like, what the hell's going on here? Because it's not as easy as other softwares. Like, you can load in, say if I loaded this into ECM Titanium, it would give me a bunch of drivers and it'll tell me what does what and all that kind of stuff. Now, the only problem with those kind of base softwares is, well, if you don't buy the driver maker and things like that, then you're kind of stuck to what they say is what it is. Whereas with WinOLS, you're kind of open to like test things, check things, make new maps, change maps that aren't in drivers, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, got access to the entire ECU, and this is where WinOLS becomes the editor that you kind of want it to be. So let me show you. So all these maps relate to something, and all these maps have got other maps that relate to them. So say if you've got like drivers, if you've got like rail pressure, you're going to have rail pressure requests and all that kind of stuff. You've got different types of rail pressure that they're going to be based on different like environments. So you could have a rail pressure based on height. You could have a rail pressure based on if you're in regen mode. You can have just a normal rail pressure, which is going to relate to a normal general driver when nothing else is going on, and it's all good. So it's not a case of changing every single map either. Like, it's understanding what does what, how it does it, and what have I got to do to raise it, and how far can I raise it. Like, you're going to have sensors, because the way the ECUs work is they have a bunch of sensors on the engine which feed back to the ECU. So you can have a rail pressure sensor which tells the ECU what rail pressure you're at. You've got boost pressure sensors, map sensors that relate and tell the ECU what kind of pressure you see it, and it uses those sensors to adjust based on the tune. So if you're requesting 500 newton meters at 1600 rail pressure, 1.8 bar, the ECU is going to try and use the sensors to move the wastegates and things like that to add more fuel pressure to try and do what you're asking it to do. This is pretty much how it works. Then you've got fail safes. If the ECU got it wrong and you overboost because of the settings that we've left in the ECU, then you've got all the settings that are going to drop the car into limp mode based on those requests. So there's quite a bit going on when you're tuning these cars, which is why everyone needs to be logging it and seeing what's going on. So you've got a few options from here. You can either sit down, find an A2L, work at all the maps, get a log of the car, try and start figuring it out, seeing what's going on, and all that kind of stuff, which is kind of long-winded. It takes a few months. Like, this is why price differences vary amongst tuners, because some put in that work and you need to pay for that, and others just buy one in and flash out your car and they're just paying for somebody else's work. So there's different levels of different types of tune that goes on. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put in the magic. So in a minute we've got no maps. So if I just go to find solutions, sorry, and I go to power division, you have to be registered with Power Division and have an account with them. And I've got a lot quality map pack. Now, what these mean, if I open them all up, you have a lot quality map pack, which means that I've got 211 maps available. So you'd have to sit and find 211 maps if you didn't buy things like this. And that map pack is locked to this software version. I can't export it. I can't move it into other maps. I can't pretty much do anything with it. Now, it's down to 0 because I'm on the full pack. You get some of them for free, and this is classed as a free one. Then you got open quality map pack by division, by power division. So you get the same map pack, as you can see, 211 maps. You get the same map pack, but it's open. So you can export that, you can put it into other versions, you can do all sorts of different things with it. So if you're a bit more acute with WinOLS and you can move maps into other maps and all that kind of stuff, then you might go for the open one. It's a bit more expensive. It's actually 5 times more expensive, but you're kind of saving in the long run because you could make 10 versions out of that. Then you've got other options for like EGR off, Lambda off, start, speed deactivation, VSA, DPF, readiness, and all that kind of stuff. So you can also have these. Now, a simple way of looking at the pricing is that's €32. It's pretty much 1 credit to €1. So you can kind of like base your pricing based on that. You can have a DPF off for free. I think that's still part of their package that they've done. So I'm just going to double click this and I'm going to buy it. And that is now loaded in. You can't see anything going on yet. I'm going to save that. And then I'm going to show you what they've given me. So now, in that few seconds, it gave me a bunch of maps that I can actually use. I've got a little thing here, I'm going to move out of the way. So they've got a bunch of maps that we can use. And they put those maps into folders as well. So you can see like engine torque limiters, engine torque request. Obviously you request any limiter, as I explained. EGT sensors, gearbox torque limiters, idle RPM, injection system, rail pressure, smoke limitation, start of injection, torque monitoring, turbo, vehicle speed limits. So it managed to put all those maps into maps. Now, if we have a flick through on WinOLS, so when you're looking at WinOLS, anything in this coloured area here, WinOLS is picked out as a calibration area, so it's part of where the maps are going to be. So now we can see things are in blue. If you hover over them, we can see what they are. So we've got pedal position and monitoring. We've got part of the torque monitoring. And then if you flick through, we've got soy maps. So it's not only kind of like telling you what they are, it's now also putting all the information inside of the map itself. So if we go to that driver's wish table, as was earlier, go to one that you've already seen, it's now put it into like a view, so you can now see what's going on. So you've got like 1% throttle, 100% throttle, so it's telling you what it is, pedal position. You've got RPM, so now that makes sense. They put a factor behind it of 0.5. You've got torque in the middle, as you can see, Newton meters, and you've got throttle position percent. So that's what that basically saying is that when you touch the pedal, the ECU is looking at how much torque to put in the engine based on that throttle position, and then it goes through a bunch of maths on everything else to kind of figure it out. So this is the map. Kind of make things a lot easier for people. I mean, it can get expensive, I suppose, if you're going to keep paying €20 per map pack. If you're on their full pack, so you're paying I think it's about €140, something like that. So you pay €140 on the StageX system to then be able to have this in a WinOLS system. Now, you can just load these files into StageX, but then you've got to work online. So it's kind of like, it's one of them. And I find the WinOLS system a lot easier to use than so like StageX and things like that. But that's just me. Like, it's a good system. I just prefer to use WinOLS. Even if I use a StageX system, I still start and end in WinOLS because this becomes your database. So everything you have can stay within that one place. You're not having things all over the place. So that's like the little map pack setup and how to like kind of work with stuff. Let's have a quick look at what else I'll put on that list. I mean, that's a Lua script. So that's scripting within WinOLS. So what they've done, Magic have made obviously a whole server system based on scripts, and then you can select that script and say, yeah, I want that, and then it runs a script, finds out where all the maps are, gives you all the maps, and away you go. That works for loads of ECUs as well. They've got a really wide coverage. But because I'm using WinOLS, I mean, yeah, okay, it's put obviously the maps that I'm probably going to need into actual maps, but I've still got access to everything else. So if I know what this map was, I can have a look, I could use it. If I knew what any of these are, so you're not restricted to just those maps. You've got access to everything. Just that it gave you those maps to make life a bit easier for you. Like, I know these are boost tables. The only problem is that I would say is it's got like a basic naming scheme behind it. So when you're using the, say like these maps here, these maps won't just be turbo boost pressure request. There'll be boost pressure request based on something. So they'd have environmental, or it could be regen, or it could be even on some cars you've got 2 turbos and things like that, but you don't know what they are. They're just all called the same. It's kind of like a generic name. So that's the only thing I would watch, is that you make sure that you're tuning the right maps. But again, that comes down to logging. Like, make changes, see if it changes in the logs. Just change one of these boost tables and then run it, load it to the car, run it and see where that table is used, or go and find an A2L. In the A2L, you'll probably find everything that you need to be able to start putting the maps together. Now, when you've built maps, say I'm going to go make a little map based on this map. So I'm going to go to driver's wish. Pretty quick to go on here. I go to talk request and I go to driver's wish and I change that to say, so to edit things, I'll cover this while we're here. Default, you won't be able to just do that with the scroll bar. There's a selection view up here, selection mode. I think you're stuck in consecutive when you start, so it'll start looking like this. So if you want to fix that, just go to selection mode, and then go to rectangle, and then you can just highlight what you want. Now to edit things, you have to highlight, or just go to 1 byte or whatever, press enter, type in your number. So if I highlight all this, it'll be set to the same. And then now that is set, you can copy that and you can put it into the other maps you're going to need. You can also, oh crap, don't want that. I'll just delete the map. You don't want what you don't want. Well, you can also, you've got these buttons up here. So what these will do is they'll tell you if you're changed by percent, it'll tell you by difference, it'll tell you by ignore the factor and show you what the actual numbers are, and then obviously you've got the original. Now what you can also do is if you click on one of these, copy that, and then go to another one, I can just copy that straight in. It'll probably give me a different, just give me the same numbers. So although I'm not copying the 500, I can copy it based on what I've already done. So if I've made quite a few changes on here that aren't direct numbers, so if I just switch off that aren't, say, just 500 newton meters, and I wanted to copy those into here, the easiest way, obviously these maps are pretty much bang on, so I could just copy the whole map and bang it in. But if I'm not, I can also just change it to that, take a copy of that and bang that in, and I'll only copy what's changed, because obviously nothing's changed here. So there's little quick ways of doing things. But say I'll make these changes now. I'm just going to make a few changes into this map, and I'm going to show you how to copy those changes to another map. So I'm just going to make these quick changes. These aren't changes that I'll tell you to make if you're tuning the car. This is just so you can see what I'm doing, to show you another part of WinOLS. So if I'm making these maps, so I've added that. I'll go to turbo a bit further in. Make a few changes just to show you what I'm doing. It doesn't really matter what I change, how I change it. Might as well show you that too. So you actually have different ways of making changes in the map. So if I highlight this area, I can press enter, and I can just change. If I'm selected to 180, it'll all change to 180. If I press F11, it goes back to normal. Now, if I want to change by percent, or if I just go like this, you can change +1, so you've got plus. I can take away 1, so I'm pressing just minus. I can change the absolute, so I can press equals and type in the number. I can change by relative, so by percent. And I can change by edit, so you can edit 4 corners, you can interpolate and all sorts. You can round and limit the values, or you can interpolate values. So interpolate's handy. If I was doing an axis, and I set that, I can highlight these, press I, and it will interpolate based on left to right, top to bottom, 4 sides. So I can change the axis. I'm going to add some boost in there, just so I've got something to change. So there's different ways of making changes. So say I've made these changes to these maps. So this is an our map, say, and I wanted to put all these changes into another map, so into something that looks near the same. So if I go to similar projects, I'll search from the original, and I'll go to, say this one, 81% match. What? So what we want to do, that's a stop because someone walked in. But what we want to do is copy the changes from this file here into this file. So say if you've read a car, put it into the software, you've got an 81% match. So instead of building that all out again, we can actually just transfer the changes from that map to that map. So if you've got both maps open, so you've got your tune and you've got your stock file, select your tune. This is one way of doing it. There's a few ways. Just click this button here, connect windows, or you can press Ctrl and 2. It's going to come up with another box. So have yours set up like this. It's obviously original, connected project. You can choose what project you want to connect to if you've got other projects open. And then try and keep it to the same as I've got mine set up. I think everything else is default. It's just these that I change. And press OK. Now what that's going to do is going to overlay them. So you've got the tune at the top. I haven't named it, but I've got an asterisk there which says it hasn't been saved. And then at the bottom, they're different software numbers, but they're very close. There's not a lot of differences in them. Now, as you can see, we've got pink, which is a positive, and blue, which is a negative. So WinOLS is basically looking at this changes and saying that this file is different to that one. So what you can do is you can highlight it and use these buttons here. So these buttons will line up the file, and these buttons are for copying. Now, if I'd have made the map of this, I could copy in the map by using this button here. Because I'm only copying the changes over, I'm just going to use this button here. So I'm just going to say, take that from there and put it into there. So take it that way. And now this box pops up. So this box is for the transferring values. So you've got difference, which is the difference between the two. You've got percentual and you've got absolute. Absolute's the one you want, and always make sure that unchecked is even unchanged. This is because WinOLS is looking at obviously the data, but you're going to have all the data which is different across the files. So like immobilizer data, there could be bootloaders in there, there could be all sorts in there which you do not want to move over, because if you flash set the car, that car ain't going to start. So all we want to do is transfer the absolute, which is the actual physical changes between that map and that map. So we'll press OK, and that'll just transfer those changes. So it's gone. The blue's gone because it's now the same as that. Now, if you're just transferring by absolute and it's a close match, and you know that it's only maps that you're changing, you can press Ctrl A on the top one and just move over the lot, and that'll move over the entire map contents from that map to that map, like so. So now I've just moved over the boost. There's a bit of a difference here. Slightly lower boost there. It might have been an update. So you can go and you can have a look around and make sure that your changes have gone over and that it makes sense. It's even with the axis data that we changed. So that's just like a quick way of copying over maps and things like that. I mean, I've gone down to, you can go down to like 30%. Like you can use that also. Say if you was building a map and you didn't have a map pack for one, but you had one that's close, but not close enough. You can also do that. You can make the changes in this one, line it up in that one, and just transfer as you work and things like that. You can use it for anything, any way that gets you from A to B with the job that you want to do. So that's pretty much the basics of using the software. you've got other options available like scripts and things like that, but I think they would pretty much be their own video as such, because there's a lot into the scripts of do's and don'ts and how to do things and things like that. So this now, like between WinOLS 1 and WinOLS 2, you should be pretty much able to pick up a tune, load it into WinOLS, have a look at it, like find map packs or things like that if you haven't got one. If you want to link yourself to the StageX system, you can do that. You just sign up to StageX, make an account, add in your WinOLS number, because obviously when you create an account, you always get your little number. So they'll ask for that, add that, come back to WinOLS and do your software update by miscellaneous and go to update to registration, run that, and that will put you on their database so you can buy map packs and things like that. So when you go to find and solutions, you'll be able to add that solution to your files and do whatever you want to do. It's pretty good. There's a lot of maps out there that it covers, and to be fair, like I've sat and built stage 1s, stage 2s using their map packs, so they are quite good. They're just like, oh my god, the only thing I would say is just like, kind of know what map you're in by logs and things like that. Get used to logging cars first. If you're looking at tuning, you're probably better off logging cars first than you are to making changes. Kind of got build an understanding of what's going on, what the ECU is seeing. So when you're making your changes, you can physically see them as you're changing them based on the logs. So I hope you kind of enjoyed these videos. Obviously like and subscribe, and I will carry on making things out. If you put in the comments what you want to see based on WinOLS, I can also make videos based on those, even the shorts or whatever. Just obviously write in the comments what you want to see, and then we can get cracking. Like, let's make tuning fun. Let's get into this. So thanks for watching. Peace out.